Hi, this is Jacqueline from National Mortgage Professional Magazine, and I would like to welcome you to today's webinar, sponsored and presented by Pam Marin of Innovative Mortgage Services and Matt Reeby. I would like to thank all of our webinar attendees for taking the time out of their busy day for this valuable and informative webinar in our ongoing series of webinars. Pam Marin, a loan originator at Innovative Mortgage Services Incorporated, has been originating conventional FHA, VA, USDA, CP, and rehab mortgages throughout Florida since 1985. She is also a board member of the Gulf Coast Florida Association of Mortgage Professionals and is the co-chair of communications for FAMP at the state level. Ms. Marin is a monthly contributor to National Mortgage Professional Magazine on the foreclosure credit code issue. Matt Reeby is the Senior Director of Legislative Affairs and Corporate Secretary for the National Foundation of Credit Counseling. At the NFCC, he is responsible for government relations at the state and federal level, as well as managing the organization's Board of Trustees and member governance committees. Reeby is heavily involved in the coalition of HUD intermediaries, where he serves as co-chair of the Advocacy Committee. Well-versed in the federal student lending programs, Reeby serves as the NFCC's subject matter expert on student loans and has been a trusted source for ABC 7 News in Chicago, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Equifax, Bankrate, and other media outlets. If you have any questions during the webinar, please be sure to ask them on the GoToWebinar console. We will try to answer as many questions as possible at the end of the webinar. Without further ado, I'd like to turn this over to Pam Marin.
Thanks so much, Jacqueline. And for your information, everyone, footnotes will be compiled on the last page of the presentation. Today, you're going to learn about what happens when foreclosure code is inaccurately applied to mortgage credit for consumers who had a short sale modification and sometimes a deed in lieu, and even when excessive late mortgage payments over 120 days delinquent occurred, but the consumer sold their home for a profit. So why is it necessary to get this information to loan originators and realtors now? There is an increase in the number of consumers who are now eligible for a new mortgage because they have passed the wait time frame designated by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac needed after a foreclosure, or needed after a short sale, a modification or deed in lieu. But the foreclosure code inaccurately applied to their past mortgage credit is stalling or stopping many of these consumers from getting a new Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac conventional loan, even when the consumer is eligible. This problem affects both purchases and refinances, and most of you know that there is a 4-year wait after a short sale or deed in lieu, and a 2-year wait, or even as little as 1-year wait after a modification. But the applied foreclosure code requires a 7-year wait instead. The chaos that ensues when this problem is found mid-contract, when a deadline of a contract is looming, and especially for Freddie Mac conventional loans, prevents having the time needed to get the foreclosure credit corrected, and usually results in 3 choices left for the consumer: a change to an FHA mortgage, a change to a conventional portfolio mortgage at a higher interest rate with a greater down payment that the consumer may not have, or the loss of the contract altogether. So why are so many surprised when this foreclosure credit code problem happens? The main reason is that you can't see the foreclosure on the tri-merged credit report. Most often, these consumers are pre-qualified and given a green light for a new purchase because the client has passed the required wait time of 1 year minimum after a modification or 4 years after a short sale or deed in lieu. The problem becomes visible on the findings from the Fannie Mae Desktop Underwriter or Originator Automated Underwriting System or Freddie Mac's Loan Product Advisor System. But in too many cases, loans are not run through the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac automated systems until after a contract is signed and the loan is well into processing and even as far as underwriting. So why does this problem that has been known about for years still persist? In 2013, it was thought that the problem was in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac automated systems. A workaround was devised in Fannie Mae's automated system, but this was never done with Freddie Mac. Now the foreclosure code is affecting modification and deed in lieu credit in addition to short sale credit. Thanks to data from your affected consumer cases, proof is now being provided to show that this is not specifically an automated system problem, but is also a credit coding problem. And we've got our first poll question here.
Hi, I'm going to launch the first poll question. How many originators run their loans? Sorry, one second, technicals. How many loan originators run their loans through Fannie Mae and/or Freddie Mac automated systems up front? Please select 1, yes to Fannie Mac, yes to Freddie Mac, yes to both, or neither. We're just going to give a little time to answer. Whatever it is. Okay. And the results are 43% said yes to Fannie Mae, 2% yes to Freddie Mac, 45% yes to both, and 11% to neither.
Okay, as previously stated, the foreclosure code problem specifically occurs on conventional Fannie and Freddie mortgages, but it can be spotted in government loans as well. The difference is that government loans commonly allow for a manual underwrite, and though Fannie and Freddie do allow for a manual underwrite of conventional loans, very few lenders will do these loans because conventional manually underwritten loans do not receive reps and warranties, a protection that lenders need. Number 2, the foreclosure code can be anticipated to show up in the Fannie and Freddie automated systems for a conventional loan when the mortgage delinquency was over 120 days late. You'll be shown where to look for this delinquency information and specifically which of the 3 credit bureaus of Experian, TransUnion, and/or Equifax are reporting this in an upcoming slide. And number 3, a secondary problem involves when a consumer is told that their short sale modification or deed in lieu credit looks like a foreclosure and they investigate the account. That investigation call becomes the updated date reported on the credit report, and this date cannot be changed. This more recent date causes an automatic caution denial in Freddie Mac's automated system, and it produces a comment in Fannie Mae's automated system, though proof of the valid closing date for a short sale modification or deed in lieu is acceptable to Fannie Mae to overcome this comment. And number 4, disputes on an account can still produce a caution denial with Freddie Mac, but the requirement to remove a dispute altogether was recently changed for Fannie Mae in July of 2017. And a source for where to find that information in Fannie Mac will be on the last page of this presentation. Disputes, often applied by the consumer or a credit repair company, do nothing but make an account invisible to the automated systems. When lenders are faced with removing disputes, the original credit issue returns and the credit scores plummet. So let's go to the numbers of potentially affected consumers with a short sale, deed in lieu, or modification across the United States. According to Atom Data Solutions, nearly 2 million consumers engaged in a short sale or deed in lieu since January of 2010. As you know, past homeowners are eligible to re-enter the conventional mortgage market 4 years after engaging in a short sale or deed in lieu. This means that just over 1 million of these consumers are now eligible to re-enter the mortgage market right now, and another 950,000 are eligible to come into the market over the next 2 to 3 years. For modifications, there were over 5 million completed between government-sponsored enterprises Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, HAMP, and portfolio private investors since March of 2009. These include modifications of both first and second mortgages. This large number of modifications that are at risk of the foreclosure code is what made the housing counseling industry take note of this problem. When it was shown that mortgage delinquency past 120 days appears to be a trigger of the foreclosure code, this caused concern as many who receive a modification are well past the 120 days delinquents. Credit of those with a modification was investigated, and the foreclosure code shows up when the late mortgage payments exceeded 120 days, but it does not show up when the delinquency is less than 90 days. On a new purchase after a modification, the minimum wait time frame is 12 months, and there is no wait time frame if a refinance is done. However, heavy scrutiny will apply to the modification loans. But here's the alarming reason that this foreclosure code can affect even more consumers. There are still 5.4 million homeowners across the United States that have at least 125% negative equity. In many of these cases, the first mortgage is a conventional portfolio loan where no refinance exists, like the HARP does for a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac negative equity first mortgage. Or a refinance is prevented even when the portfolio conventional first mortgage has positive equity, but it's attached to a second mortgage or HELOC where the combined loan-to-value exceeds the 97% maximum for a combined loan-to-value refinance. Some of these conventional portfolio first mortgages and many of the attached home equity lines of credit were interest-only loans. Interest-only loans commonly reset to full principal and interest payments after 7 to 10 years, and a huge number are resetting right now. This is really important for all of us to take note of. When interest-only loans reset, the balance due is spread over the remaining term of the loan, and the payment increases substantially. Think about this. The remaining balance of that loan, if you had a 15-year loan and you had a 10-year interest period, and you've now got 5 years left, and there was no principal paid on the loan, that full balance of that loan is now amortized at full principal and interest over 5 years. The majority of calls received on this problem are escalating now and are from homeowners caught off guard that their interest-only loans reset this way. Often these folks are trying to find a solution before the reset payment is put in place. If they have negative equity, their only solution is a modification or a short sale of their home. And to this day, most lenders still require mortgage delinquency and proof of hardship first before a modification or short sale can be done. Unless a modification or short sale can be closed in less than 120 days, these consumers will most likely be affected by the foreclosure code. Steps to take on every loan, and especially when consumers have had a short sale, modification, or deed in lieu in their past. Realtors and loan originators, ask every client if they've had a short sale, modification, or deed in lieu. Consumers don't like to bring up past negative occurrences, and most of them think you're going to ask them a question if it's needed, so ask them. Number 2, finding an accurate payment history can be tricky and does not look the same on all credit reports. Slide 11 that's coming up will show you where to look for this information. Number 3, at the very least, run your loan through the Fannie Mae desktop underwriting system before your client signs a contract. And number 4, if you receive a refer caution due to a foreclosure, use the Fannie Mae workaround, and you must be in the Fannie Mae desktop underwriting system to perform the workaround. Number 5, if your client absolutely needs a Freddie Mac loan but receives a caution denial, do both the CFPB submit a complaint and the lender letter. Links for how to do this are on the last page. And remember, this usually takes 15 to 20 days, and the results are not 100% successful. So Here's what a denial looks like on the Fannie Mae desktop originator or underwriter system on the left and on the Freddie Mac loan product advisor system on the right. On Fannie Mae, the foreclosure is identified under risk eligibility. Fannie Mae notes the lender name, account number, and the date reported. When you get a refer with caution, shown at the top with the yellow around it and the exclamation mark, in Fannie Mae, the foreclosure shows up at the very top there, and when you get that, use the Fannie Mae workaround even if you've gotten this on a modification. For Freddie Mac, that's shown on the right, the caution is highlighted under the risk class on the feedback cert at the top. Go to the credit and liabilities in your findings and look for any or all of 3 codes. A number 13 for recent foreclosure or significant derogatory, a number 64 for credit report with recent mortgage delinquency, and a YX. The borrower has had a short sale deed in lieu of foreclosure within the last 7 years. There is no workaround for Freddie Mac. And I think we've got another poll question here.
Yes, we do. It is, do you know how to do the Fannie Mae workaround when a foreclosure is found on a desktop originator, underwriter, finding and results in a refer with caution? Yes or no? Okay, give you a couple more seconds to answer. Okay, 16% said yes and 84% said no.
Okay, good news to have. Okay, now we're going to dissect the credit. And I need to make a disclaimer here. The problem surrounding the foreclosure code issue is complicated, and the problem is currently being reviewed by agencies and the credit bureaus. What is being shown to you here is the easiest way to visually anticipate the foreclosure code problem based upon detailed data from in excess of 150 cases reviewed with multiple credit reporting agencies and in both Fannie and Freddie. Number 1 above is a combined trade line where credit code information from the 3 credit bureaus of Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax are merged into one. And this is what we as a loan officer commonly see on our credit bureaus. This credit report uses a Meridian Link platform that provides a link to the detail for each of the bureaus to the very far right under source, and it's highlighted. Number 2 is seen from this link. The 3 credit bureaus show their specific data individually. In the far right column is the payment history. C's are for current, and numbers ranging from 1 to 9 follow. The number 4 commonly represents 120 plus days late. This is really important. When these numbers in that column exceed number 4, it is likely you will see pre-foreclosure or foreclosure code on Fannie Mae findings. You will see under this payment history that Experian is the only credit bureau where numbers go above 4. Experian is where the foreclosure code was verified coming from in this example. Let's go to number 3. You see 2 arrows for number 3. The first arrow points to the date reported on the combined trade line that we loan officers see. That's at the very top. Notice that 5 of 2016 shows under date reported. That date is the most recent date from the 3 individual credit bureaus detailed under reported. It's in the second column where you see the 3 bureaus broken out, and I've got it highlighted, and you'll see at the very bottom, Equifax shows 5/16 as the reported date. The most recent of those dates is the date that goes into our tri-merged credit that we see on our report. So we've got a situation here where the reported is of concern with Equifax, but the foreclosure code is a concern with Experian. If there's a dispute on your account, this will show in the remarks section where number 4 is pointing to. And knowing this specific information for each credit bureau saves your borrower money on rapid rescores, and it also pinpoints where the problem can be investigated at. So now you know the basics of what a loan originator or lender can do to see if the foreclosure problem exists, at least in Fannie Mae. Now I'm going to explain why the housing counseling industry was sought to be the resource for this problem. 99% of the time, we're called to help with this foreclosure credit problem, whether by the affected consumer, a loan originator, or credit reporting agency representative. It's in the middle of a contract where time to solve the problem is limited. And with the tight housing market where backup contracts are waiting in the wings, racing to that contract deadline is critical. Also, there's an increase in calls coming from the greatest number of past short sellers who are now eligible to come back into the market, and also from consumers who need help with resetting interest-only loans. While work is being done behind the scenes to get a fix for the continued foreclosure credit code issue, there needed to be a specific service to assist potentially affected consumers to see if the foreclosure code was going to be a problem for them before they attempted to sign a purchase contract. And let's face it, loan originators and realtors are driven by contract deadlines, and most are not interested in the time it takes to get this problem fixed for these borrowers. Because the housing counseling industry already deals with credit and preparing consumers for home purchasing, asking them to be part of this needed correction seemed like a perfect fit. It's also a fact that some loan originators have accessibility to the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac automated systems, and some don't. And even if loan originators do have accessibility, many are not sure how to utilize the Fannie Mae workaround. Also, housing counselors dealt with millions of consumers who had a modification. And remember, there were over 5 million modifications. They can contact these past clients to ensure that these consumers are mortgage ready when they are eligible to purchase a home again. But realtors and loan originators think about this connection. The mortgage and real estate industry could use the help from the housing counseling industry to get our clients mortgage ready, especially for problems that take time to correct. And the mortgage and real estate industries could assist housing counseling clients when these clients are ready to purchase a home again. And frankly, we in the lending industry are spending far too much time undoing temporary fixes like disputes, which do nothing but hide credit from the automated systems. When we have to undo temporary fixes, credit scores plummet, risking the ability of our clients to get the best mortgage, and we sometimes come off as the bad guys. So because of this, it was determined that a pre-purchase service to assist millions with this foreclosure code issue could be best served by utilizing the services of HUD-approved housing counselors. There is a one-time cost for this service, but we as originators and lenders can give a credit back to the affected consumers who pay for this service up front. Now I'm going to turn this presentation over to Matt Reeby, Senior Director of Legislative Affairs and Corporate Secretary for the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, the trade organization that initiated this pilot program to assist affected consumers. Matt?
Thank you, Pam, and thank you for describing this issue. Pam first brought this to our attention about a year ago, actually, and we've been working with her to get this service up and running so that we could help these affected borrowers. So a bit about the NFCC. We're actually the nation's largest and longest serving nonprofit financial counseling network. We've been around for almost 70 years and work with over 1 million clients per year to help them manage their finances and get their budgets in order. As Pam alluded to, we are the largest provider of housing counseling services and worked with many, many millions of consumers throughout the mortgage crisis, helping them explore their home retention options and obtain a mortgage modification if possible, or exit their home gracefully if that was not possible. So a bit about our network. All of the NFCC's agencies, and we have 65 member agencies, we have over 1,200 financial counselors within our agency network, and hundreds of physical locations all across the country, as well as 24/7 call center capability. All of our member agencies are HUD-approved housing counseling agencies. They're certified both by the NFCC and by HUD to be able to provide housing counseling services. But in addition, one of the differences for NFCC counseling agencies is they have a broader focus. They do credit counseling, student loan counseling, bankruptcy counseling, and general financial education. So really have quite a broad focus. So if we look at the next slide, please, we see a bit about what it is that NFCC agencies do, just getting into a bit of that with the credit counseling and debt management. But it's important to understand what we do not do. We are not credit repair organizations. We are not debt settlement organizations. Each one of our member agencies is a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to serve the consumer, provide financial education and counseling. We do not go in and dispute credit records. We don't have adversarial relationships with financial institutions or really any other organization. Our mission is to work collaboratively with individuals and help them understand and navigate their financial options and challenges. So getting a bit into this specific service, we realized when Pam brought this to our attention that this really is, this credit code issue is a significant barrier, potentially impacting millions of prospective homeowners, whom it's in all of our interests to ensure that they get into a mortgage loan that works for them, that's appropriate for them, so that they can build towards that American dream. And so we wanted to offer a service that could help rectify this issue and do so in a way that's aligned with the client's interests. As Pam alluded to earlier, unfortunately, many of these consumers who are affected by this issue are turning to credit repair companies, and those companies really offer, or just by disputing and sort of hiding the issue, may appear to temporarily address it, but unfortunately it just rears its head again when they go through underwriting, and that's not productive for anyone, least of all you all. So the idea here is to provide a solution that can get consumers ready to sign a mortgage contract and get them through underwriting so that they are completed. The solution, we found that in fact one of the ways that an NFCC agency can be helpful is because our agencies actually have access to the Fannie Mae desktop underwriting system, and that's how we actually check and verify that this issue actually does affect the consumer, so that we can apply the fix. So if we look at it here, you see realtors or loan originators can refer potentially affected consumers directly to an NFCC member agency, or the consumer can contact the agency directly. The loan originator can even export a 1003 to the member agency, and the agency can complete that application with the consumer. Then they pull the tri-merge credit report, run it through the Fannie Mae desktop underwritten system, and if it comes back and they see that denial due to foreclosure, we verified that the issue exists for this consumer before you all have to do that, and then we can apply the workaround. We can also check for a more recent date submitted, and we'll note the case. We can file a consumer complaint with the CFPB, and we can work with the consumer and lender on a lender letter. So this is to document the issue and get the workaround documented so that the consumer is ready to go through the underwriting process. As a part of this, the agency will offer housing counseling and associated financial education services to ensure the consumer is fully mortgage ready. So it really is sort of a holistic service. So as Pam was alluding to earlier, there is an upfront fee of $300 that's charged for the service. We we feel strongly this is a value add for all the stakeholders involved, and especially the client who has this issue addressed in an expedient manner by someone who has their best interest in mind, is not driven by a contract deadline, and really is working to address the consumer's challenges. We also feel, as Pam was alluding to earlier, that this fee issue can actually be a way to help the original referrer maintain that relationship with the client. As 501c3 nonprofit agencies, the agency themselves cannot receive any referral fee or anything like that. We don't engage in referrals. But if the agency charges the client $300 up front for the service, and the loan originator offers to provide a credit to that consumer for having gone through the service and obtained the documentation that the issue exists, and then you offer that credit back to the consumer at time of closing, that's an incentive, that's a value add for everybody, and a way to maintain that relationship. That is totally consistent with everybody's interests. So,
and Matt, I'd like you to also address the second point, which was really critical for us to get this going with the housing counseling industry too.
That's right. That's right. So it's very important to keep in mind the role of a housing counseling agency and what they're doing when they're working with the consumer. As nonprofits, they are there to provide financial education and counseling to the consumer. And again, this issue is an example of something where there is an issue that is directly impacting a consumer's ability to attain a financial goal, and where the interests are aligned for an agency to work with the consumer to rectify the issue so they can move forward with their financial goals. It is not the role of a member agency to work on loan approval or to prepare any type of underwriting decisions. That's the lender's job, that's the broker's job, the originator's job. So really our job is to make sure that these consumers are as best positioned as they can be with education, budgeting assistance, and making sure that impediments like an incorrect foreclosure code are cleared, and so that the consumer is ready to move ahead. And so that's sort of how we really feel that this can be a symbiotic relationship between a housing counseling agency, a consumer, and you all in the mortgage origination business.
And Matt, I'd like to address a concern we get from lenders quite a bit, that their client may go to a housing counselor, but then they never come back to that lender. And I'd like to preface this with a point of view from as a loan originator. Here's the deal as far as our industry can look at this. Loan originators, we can be in control of these clients in this process by completing the 1003 application with that client, and then by exporting the 1003 to the NFCC member agency. And the information of who that NFCC member agency that's doing this right now is located on this slide. When the member agency has finished the corrective measures so that the foreclosure code doesn't show up, they can provide the Fannie Mae findings back to us. We, the loan officers or a lender, can keep in touch with the client and the housing counseling agency to know approximately when that client is mortgage ready to come back to us. And here's how you ensure the consumer will call you back. Let them know up front that when they are ready to purchase again, you will give them a credit towards their closing costs for the upfront fees they paid to the NFCC member agency to make sure that they are mortgage ready. And I think we've got another poll question here.
Yes, we do. Would you be interested in working with a new housing counseling program designed to get clients mortgage ready within 6 to 12 months? Yes or no? I'm going to give you a little bit to answer that. Okay. 78% said yes, and 22% said no.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. All right. Loan officers, here's a few more details. I'll be as quick as I can, but these are really important for you to remember. Yes, you will need to pull a new tri-merge credit report at your company that may be a different credit reporting agency than the one used by the NFCC member agency. Number 2, rerun your loan again in the Fannie Mae desktop system up front to ensure there are no glitches before a contract is signed. Number 3, if your credit report does not have a link to the 3 bureaus, contact your credit reporting agency for this information. If they don't provide this link, consider getting a secondary credit reporting agency that does have this capability like the Meridian Link platform does. Number 4 and 5, Freddie Mac may issue a caution denial if a dispute or a date reported within a minimum required wait time frame exists. Fannie Mae can still provide an automated approval with the dispute present, but some restrictions apply. And Fannie Mae will also allow proof of the short sale modification or deed in lieu when the date reported is more current. Remember, the date reported cannot be changed on a credit report, so just a reminder there. Finally, many have asked, what does a CFPB, submit a complaint, and a lender letter do? Both of these options require specific detail that directs a challenge of the foreclosure code to the mortgage account lender and requires an answer within a specific time frame. When these two options are done, credit code appears to be downgraded so that the foreclosure code does not show up. When any answer is received in writing for either of these options, a brand new tri-merge credit report must be pulled and the loan must be rerun in the automated underwriting system. This has worked some of the time for Freddie Mac, where you all know there is not a workaround available. I have found the CFPB submit a complaint letter the most effective. For some reason, lenders respond to a letter from the CFPB. And the directions for the CFPB submit a complaint and the lender letter are on a link at the resources page. But now I hope that you're seeing how much work a housing counselor can do for you for these clients. You can do it yourself, but frankly, I'm looking for a service that will help out with this because this is time consuming for these folks. And finally, this is how the referral works. The referral can come from an affected consumer, a loan originator, a realtor, or a credit reporting agency. And the referral goes over to the NFCC member agency. And when the work is done, where the corrective measures have been taken to fix the foreclosure credit, that consumer is ready to come back to you. Again, I would recommend that you make it a priority to keep in touch with not only the consumers, but the housing counseling agency as well. And for those loan originators and realtors and lenders who originate Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac loans and the credit reporting agencies and all HUD-approved housing counseling agencies, there is a free way that we can promote that you can offer assistance to these clients in your state. On FORECLOSURECreditFix.com, a Foreclosure Credit Fix network map exists. And this houses the contact information for folks in every state that would like to help these people. All you have to do to be on here is simply send your contact information, the area you serve, and a picture of yourself to help@FORECLOSURECreditFix.com. In the past, it was believed that the problem of the foreclosure code was due to the automated systems of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Instead, I am convinced that the automated systems were the first window that gave us the visual ability to see this problem. The root of the problem is that there is no specific credit code for a short sale or a modification, so foreclosure code is applied. And a deed in lieu does have a credit code, but only becomes a problem when the code is not applied correctly. As we speak, attention is being brought to the continued problem of inaccurate foreclosure code applied to credit for those who've had a short sale, modification, or deed in lieu. This problem is stalling the reentry of eligible consumers back into the housing market. But because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac continue to provide the best programs and pricing, the drive to get this problem corrected continues. Matt, thank you to you and the efforts of the National Foundation for Credit Counseling that initiated this effort that provides a resource for assistance to consumers who are having trouble getting back into the housing market because of the inaccurate foreclosure code on their past mortgage. And thanks to the National Mortgage Professional magazine for helping us to get this information out. Above is the contact information for the NFCC member agency that can help your client, and contact information for Matt Reevy at the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, and also for myself, Pam Marin. Resources and footnotes are on the next slide. And everyone that has registered or been at this session will be sent a copy of the PowerPoint, I believe tomorrow, right, Beverly, or within the next couple of days?
Yes, tomorrow.
Okay. And now I guess we're ready for any questions.
Yes, we got some questions. Eric wants to know, if the Housing Counseling Agency runs the loan through Fannie Mae, why do I have to run the loan again?
You want to answer that, Matt?
Yeah, so I'll take this one. So this goes back, and thanks for the question. This goes back to what we were getting to earlier about how the role of a housing counseling agency, and just emphasizing that agencies are not mortgage underwriters, they're not lenders, they're not brokers, they're not. Their role is to prepare someone for homeownership, and the reason that we run it through the underwriting system is to verify that this foreclosure code error exists for that individual, so we document it and we can apply the workaround and get it fixed. But we are not here to underwrite loans. That's your all's job. We want to stay in our lane, and so we really just want to be a resource for the consumers, and then for you all to recognize that consumers who have been through this process are then a more valuable resource for you. So that's what that's about.
And I'd like to just add to that one more thing too. You're rerunning it to make sure nothing else has popped up on that credit report, that you're not going to, running your automated before a customer signs a contract should be done no matter what. The other thing I will tell you is that many of over 158 cases that I have run through, when I do the Fannie Mae workaround, and then sometimes even as much as a year later, when I go back into that client's file to maybe do a refinance for them, or when I go back into their file with Fannie Mae, the foreclosure code is not there. Apparently, Fannie Mae's system has a memory, and it sees that this work of the workaround, the Fannie Mae workaround, was done initially. I'm not saying how long that's for. I'm not saying it would be in every case, because these are all coming from my computer, but it appears that once you do the workaround, it may correct it in the system, and it has a memory to stay there.
Great. We actually have another question from Fred. He said, I've sent clients to counselors before and never heard from them again. Why should I send them to a counselor now?
So thanks again for that question. So I really, for one, I want to stay focused on this discrete issue that's really the topic of this webinar today, which is this credit coding error issue, and the specific program that we've put in place to address it. So you come across folks who have gone through a short sale in the past, or even a modification, or may have just had excessive lates in the past, and that's showing up as a foreclosure, which is incorrect. And so they've gone through the wait out period for recovering from a short sale, but they haven't yet gone through that 7-year wait out period for a foreclosure. So they should be ready to re-enter the marketplace, but this error is preventing them from doing it. We've designed this program to identify and fix that specific issue. And so it really is a concentrated resource for affecting those specific consumers. But more broadly, and I was pleased to see the poll responses to that earlier question about would you be interested in working with the counselor to get more people ready. We're seeing absolutely that there's a great demand amongst the mortgage lending industry for sort of a more low to moderate income type borrower. And really, we're coming out of an environment where it's been, primarily jumbo loans and sort of the cream high end of the market. And now that next phase of growth is going to come from just a little step down from that. And there's plenty of folks who are close but not quite there. They've got some issues with their credit, maybe some budgeting issues that if they can work with a counselor and address those, over a relatively short period of time, we can get them ready to own a home. So instead of thinking about housing counseling as, oh gosh, this is sort of a requirement, sort of a check the box, I got to do this, but it's pretty close to closing time. They've already picked out a home. I'm worried that I'm going to send them there. I'm never going to hear from them again. I'm going to lose this transaction. Instead of thinking about it that way, maybe think about us in terms of a curation resource. So if you got people coming to you who are interested but just not quite ready, we've got a program actually that we call Envisioning Home Ownership that's designed to get these folks mortgage ready. Again, over maybe a 6 to 12 month period, so that you can get them into a home and it'll be a home that makes sense for them.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, that's actually all the time we have for questions today. Thank you again for attending our webinar, and thank you to Pam and Matt for a great presentation. If a question you submitted was not one of the ones we had time to answer, it will be sent to Pam and Matt. For all the webinar attendees, a recording of today's webinar will be sent to you tomorrow. We will see you on the next webinar. Thank you again and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you all.